Maybe keep working until I hear you.
Right. When we start, Max, would you care to lead us in?
Sure.
Okay, just a second. I haven't started this yet.
You just said do
Good
it.
morning. I said.
I heard the order, didn't you?
I understood.
All right. I should probably officially start the meeting and then we can. So, good morning. Today is, April 17th. The time is now 9:02. I'm Kevin Day, Chair of the Custer County Board of Commissioners, and I will call this meeting to order. And if you would join us for the pledge and the invocation, please. Max.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all.
And if you could join me for the invocation, please. Heavenly Father, we come before you this morning, Lord, and we thank you for the opportunity that we have to come together today. We thank you too for this place you've given us to live, and for the beauty that is there. And as we've been talking, the wildlife, we just we stand in awe. We ask that as we come together here today, that you would guide and direct us, that you would give us your wisdom and direction as we make decisions for the county. And we just, again, thank you for that opportunity. We pray this all in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen. Kelly, could we get a roll call?
Commissioner Day,
Present
Commissioner Kanda,
Here.
Commissioner F.
is not online.
on yet, and County Attorney Dan Slater,
Here.
Clerk to the Board Kelly Camper.
Okay. And we'll start with the audience introductions. Start with you, Mike.
Mike Chesney. James Gilbert. Maxwell Hanson.
Jim Shaplin.
Nadine Peterson.
Okay, and we've got probably about 6 or 7 people online, and if anybody goes to speak later, if you could identify yourself for the record, I'd appreciate it.
Can you tell us who's online?
Yes, I can. We have Alexis, we have Carol, we've got the landfill, we have Jeff Nasenos, Suzanne, Veronica, Vernon Roth, and Joni. And also I neglected to remind people to turn their phones down.
I better do that before I get hammered.
It would have been my fault if I hadn't remembered.
Boy, I'm glad you said that.
Any amendments to the agenda?
None from me.
All right. We do have minutes from the November 15th, 30th, and April 10th meetings to approve.
I move we accept the minutes from November, what was it, 10th?
15th,
15th, April to 10th.
okay, so
And November 30 was the other.
I will second that motion. So I do have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes from November 15th, 30th, and April 10th. Discussion. Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that motion does carry. Commissioner items, go ahead, sir.
I only have one major one. They're working, well, 2 of them. They're working on the antenna for the TV tower still. So that'll be, once I get that bid, that itemized, I'll give it to Jim when he gets back and work up a payment. But until then, we won't know. I was at the Upper Ark, and I'm gonna invite them up to give a status of what the project, what they plan on doing with Lake Louise here in the future, in another month or so. And also, they had 5 applicants that they reviewed, 3 will be interviewed. They're gonna do that this week for the new director down there. And selection hadn't taken place, but they're working on it this week, so we'll know the next time I give you a report.
Okay,
And that's all I got.
all right. I have turned in the paperwork, so I'm trying to get the 2 mini grants from last year through COG finalized. I've got that turned in. I have not reached back out to them to make sure they have everything that they need from me. And I will check back on that later today. And then we do have later in our agenda, the consideration, I've got 4 names for consideration for weed board. And then I would mention that we've had trouble having a meeting scheduled for next week. And that meeting will be canceled. Our AP will go on to the May 1st meeting. So there will not be a meeting next week. So thought I'd mention that so somebody didn't drive all the way over the mountain.
Everybody's in a habit of getting here.
So that's been a struggle getting that one finalized. And that's all I have. Do you have anything for us, Dan?
I do not.
And Mike or Kelly?
Nope.
Anything this time?
All righty. We have no unfinished business. So taking us to new business, the first item on our agenda would be the consideration of the USDA Rural Development 523 grant. We have a letter of support here for Upper Arkansas Area Council of Governments. I do have the letter here. Max, would you like to speak to that at all before we move into it, or?
Yeah, first, thank you for inviting me and putting me on the agenda today. I need to comment. I'm pretty impressed with how quickly you guys moved through all that at the beginning.
It's an anomaly.
This is not normal. We normally have donuts.
Oh, well, now I built this appointment. So yes, the 523 USDA Rural Development Grant Letter of Support. The self-help housing program is a program UCOG has administered since at least 1999. We've built 124 homes over the region in that time. And we've been looking at a project here in Silver Cliff with 7 lots, which is later actually on the agenda. The letter of support, really, we're just in the process of doing a new grant application through rural development. And with Custer County being one of the counties we serve, we would just like your support in our grant application.
And do you care for me I'll read this here real quick. Let me get a shot of water first, so my voice will hold up. It's addressed to Irene at City. Dear Miss at City, we are writing to express our support for the Upper Arkansas Area Council of Governments, UACOG, application for the USDA Rural Development 523 grant. As the Custer County Board of County Commissioners, we have witnessed firsthand the challenges facing rural communities, particularly in the realm of affordable homeownership. The rising cost of construction and the associated expenses of acquiring and maintaining a home have placed an immense burden on families and individuals living in rural areas. With limited access to resources and financial assistance, many aspiring homeowners find themselves locked out of the traditional housing market, exacerbating the already pressing issue of housing affordability. The USDA Rural Development 523 grant program stands as one of the last vestiges of hope for rural communities seeking sustainable pathways to home ownership. By providing crucial financial assistance and support, this program plays a pivotal role in ensuring that families and individuals in rural areas have access to safe, decent, and affordable housing options. UOCOG's work in housing aligns with the objectives and priorities of the USDA Rural Development 523 grant program. Their commitment to addressing the housing needs of their rural communities reflects a dedication to enhancing the quality of life for residents and fostering economic vitality across the region. In closing, we urge you to give full consideration to UOCOG's application to the USDA Rural Development 523 grant. By supporting this worthy endeavor, we can reaffirm our commitment to promoting equitable access to affordable homeownership and revitalizing rural communities across the nation.
Okay, I move that we support the Upper Ark grant application for the rural development, the 523 grant.
I would second that motion. Any discussion on that?
I think it's a good thing to do.
Yes, I agree. There's been, I believe right now you guys are actually on a build in Florence area, correct?
Yep.
And last year was in Canyon,
Both of which are not rural.
depending on your,
They're on upper limits.
Your mom, yeah, I guess there, there are pit.
but
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Custer County is more rural. I definitely agree with that. So, any public comment? Nadine,
Nadine Peterson. Today, since Lucas Epp is not here and not in attendance, is this a quorum that you have?
yes,
Two?
Yeah.
Okay. And with the things that are on the agenda, this approval or the grant letter, but the next one is the donation of the lots. Is that something that you, Kevin, can vote on since you were actually on the board of you?
I would believe that would be yes, but I would look to Dan for that.
First of all, whether there's a conflict of interest is usually determined by, quite frankly, at least not in cases that aren't obvious, they're determined by basically yourself. In this case, it's not obvious that there would be a conflict because you don't gain financially from the decision that you're making in this case. Just because you serve on another board that would benefit from a decision doesn't mean that it's a conflict of interest per se. You don't gain financially, as far as I know, from this determination.
Thank you for that. And I suppose I would look to you for your opinion on, as another commissioner, on whether you would be comfortable with me voting on that.
Yeah, I don't think it's a conflict, Nadine, in this case.
So. Thank you though for that question. Anything else? Nothing online.
Let me amplify. There's many boards that we participate in and we bring data to the BOCC and to the citizens. So, and that's, this is one of those kind of boards that we do that and support their efforts. We do that with the Upper Ark as well.
So, yeah, you're a similar situation with the water, Upper Arkansas Water. Nothing else? Those in favor of approving the letter of support for the 523 grant for UOCOG signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Our next item would be the consideration of finalizing the donation of 7 Silver Cliff lots to UACOG for self-help housing. And I've put that on the agenda as well. And a year ago, in your packet, you have the minutes from that meeting, where we had earmarked those 7 lots, the last 7 lots the county picked up for UACOG to use for self-help housing. One of the things, the letter that we just signed, where they're seeking this grant, one of the things that would greatly benefit them would be to have verification that they have those lots. And because that's a big plus for them in going after this grant. And I believe I would support going ahead and giving that ownership of those 7 lots to UACOG to proceed with the self-help housing, so that they will have the opportunity to use them for this next build in Custer County. And I will not make that a motion till you have a chance to comment.
Well, I'd like to hear first before that, more in order to make that, and I think the public needs to hear it too.
Absolutely. And so,
If you want to make a motion and we can do it that way too.
I'm easy to go, I'll go either direction.
Let's
If you
hear
wanna
it. Let's hear
word
it.
out first, we can do that.
so our self-help housing program, last year when the earmark, I guess was made, Custer County was still under the water sewer tap moratorium. We were in the process of recruiting some applicants for a build that we would have been planning to do this year at that time. We struggled to actually get applicants who were willing to go through the process of rural development approval because we could not guarantee when a build would actually take place. But now that that moratorium has lifted, I would be looking at having that build start the summer of next year. We've already committed to a current project in Florence since we had to pivot from the build we were anticipating to do within Silver Cliff. And just to stay current on our grant and our milestones that we're required to meet, we had to move that, again, that build to Florence. So I would be looking at, once that build in Florence is completed, moving and doing our first project in Custer County. I think this self-help housing build would be the first time UCOG's actually completed a build in Custer County under this program. As Bill had mentioned earlier, you know, several of our most recent builds have all been done in Fremont County, not exactly the most rural location. You compare it to Custer, for example. When we were soliciting applications for this project, I met with the Sheriff's Department, school district, local businesses down Main Street. There was a lot of interest from the community in participating. And this is a program where it's not the applicant isn't removed from the project. They're receiving technical assistance and construction assistance from our on-staff construction supervisor, and they are actually building their home. So they're required to do 65% of the work. On weekends, you would see them out doing their own roof, shingling, doing siding, installing cabinets, painting. We've tossed around the idea of having them do their own drywall, just to save additional money. Our most recent build that we completed were 3 single moms. They walked in with $50,000 to $55,000 in equity when they moved into their home. And these are, I want to say, guaranteed affordable for workforce. USDA has built in subsidies if a homeowner is extremely low income and still qualifies for the program to help them make their mortgage payment. Interest rates right now for this is sitting at 4.5%, which is well below market rate for a traditional mortgage. And this program is only available to rural communities. It's not like a nonprofit agency or anything can go to Colorado Springs or Pueblo and do this same program. It is only available to rural communities. And it's just a way to help increase affordable housing stock or workforce housing stock. I've done housing conferences all over the state and the nation at this point, and I have struggled to find developers who are willing to come to rural communities. The biggest reason I get for that is, why would I go build 5-10 units in your community when I can go to 200 in Denver or 150 in Colorado Springs? It's very difficult to get a private developer to come do any type of housing project. And I've been working on that for 2 years, and it's a challenge. So as the letter of support had mentioned, this is one of the, really, in my opinion, last vestiges of workforce and affordable home ownership for people. And they are committed to it. They're committed to doing, weekends. It's usually 16 hours a week on their own, plus an additional 16 hours a week of volunteers. And our last bill took about 10 months. It's about what it took to complete.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions, and I know some of the answers,
Sure.
but it's important everybody does. How do you qualify for this?
So there's an application process, requires our staff to do a narrative. There's a credit score that typically needs to be met. We have on-staff housing counselors that can work with people to help create a budget and rebuild their credit in order to qualify. The application process, actually need to submit tax returns. I think a family of 4, as long as they make less than $70,000 a year right now, would qualify. Once you go above a family of 4, I think the income qualification goes up to about 115,000.
Do they have to have a job here in the county?
They would not necessarily have to have a job in the county to qualify, no. Now, if you wanted to make that part of a deed restriction that was placed on the lots where someone had to reside in the community or work in the community, that's something that could be done. Typically, rural development would look, in the event they have to foreclose on the homeowner due to lack of payment, they would ask those deed restrictions be lifted so they can foreclose.
So are they looking to rent them then? Is that what the idea is, to rent them to somebody that wants to work in the county?
No, they would not be rented. They would be owned by people, ideally, that would live in the community. That was one commitment I made as part of the Workforce Housing Board in Custer County, was if we did this project here, we would be recruiting people here. I would not want to be trying to transplant someone from another community and bring them here just to fulfill our requirements.
Are they required to, is there a timeline that they have to be? I don't want them building it and flipping it.
Sure,
So what's the requirement?
there is no requirement on that.
So they
We
can flip
haven't
it.
had anyone flip it since I've been with UCOG, and I haven't heard of anyone within the last 5 years doing that. But that's a potential.
Yeah, that bothers me. But we could put the restriction on
You could,
it. We don't have housing up here. We need people, we need places to rent. Or young families that making $70,000 a year, or that's a lot even here. I think our average is what, 40 or something up here. So that bothers me a little bit too. So we need to have those restrictions placed on it if we're going to actually participate on this. I think it's a good idea. But I didn't really realize that you couldn't rent them either, or that they had to not live up here. That is an issue. What other questions are there? You mentioned a limit on how big a house is it? Is there a size limit or?
yeah, so USDA does have size limits. We don't ever come anywhere close to that. I think our current build right now, we're averaging about 1,100 square feet. So, and those builds with the property we just had to purchase in Florence, we're estimating about 240 to 250,000 per home cost. By taking out the cost of the actual property, that brings that down to about 200,000 total cost for the homeowner.
So the total amount the grant is willing to support is 60% of whatever the cost is. Is that what you said?
So no, the grant
Or
fund,
they're putting it in, I'm sorry. Say it
yeah,
again.
so they're required to conduct 65% of the work. Rural development has a construction matrix that's used. And the percentages vary based on whether or not there's a basement crawl space or if the home is built slab on grade. We typically only do crawl space. And again, things like the siding, painting, doing the trim, cabinets, roofing, windows, doors. Those are all things that they basically earn a percentage of completion towards. Things like electrical, sewer, foundation, and plumbing are all things that we typically contract out for because those are more skilled. And they require state inspections.
Okay. So in theory, you could build a 4-bedroom house,
Yeah, we're doing 3 bedrooms right now, 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom.
and that's what this would be?
Mhm.
Okay, so 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. And when it's completed, it would probably appraise for what?
So the recent builds we completed in Canyon City, we built those for about 210,000 and they were appraising for 290.
Yeah, 33. So to me, it seems like that's a neat thing to flip. And if that's the case, you flip it to somebody for 300,000. And they're gonna want to charge quite a bit for rent if they're not gonna live in it. And I'm not so sure that meets our goal. And maybe we need to think about what the restrictions we need to put on this before we vote to do it. And then we can have Lucas here too to discuss it. Maybe we table this, because we never did get into the discussion. The idea is a good one that we said, here's some nice problem. By the way, another question is, where are they located? They're in the heart of Silver Cliff, aren't they?
I believe, yeah, they're scatter sites, you want to say they're off
North,
First.
they're on the
or
south
west.
side, or
Yeah.
on the south side of
The highway.
going on the highway, and north of Tony's, or are they south of Tony, west of
No,
Tony's?
they're south of Tony's, south.
They're south of Tony's,
west.
and are they west of Tony's,
West.
right? So that's sort of the heart, and there's some nice rural houses in, and there's some expensive houses in there. So I think we really need to think about how we caveat this before we say go and do it, because there's not enough here.
I wish Lucas would have been able to join us. I thought he was gonna be on Zoom with us today. He did not respond back,
He
so.
needs to understand it too.
I would be more than willing to have him included in this conversation because, it is a pretty good decision that needs to be made, so. When is your grant due?
So there's no real timeline for the grant. I was hoping to have it done by the end of the month. But as long as I can demonstrate where potential locations are we could build, they will accept that as part of the grant.
Let me go back and I'd like to address the minutes that we had a year ago, because that is still in effect, and I think if nothing else, if we could just reiterate that today,
Let's hear what it is.
then that would be beneficial to him as far as his grant process. And I will. Okay, and this is the minutes from January 10th of 2023. And Upper Arkansas Area Council of Governments would like for the county to donate lots to them that they can use for their self-help housing program. They are currently building self-help homes in Fremont County, but would like to start in Custer County next. The county purchased 19 lots in the town of Silver Cliff to be used to build attainable housing. The Attainable Housing Board is currently putting together an RFP for building attainable housing on these 19 lots. After discussion, the board decided to earmark lots 9 through 11, block 88, and lots 3, 4, 7, and 8, block 93 for UACOG to use for self-help housing as needed. The motion by Commissioner Flower to earmark the last 7 lots purchased, which is the ones just noted, for use in self-help housing as needed, as the need arises. The motion carried unanimously. So we earmarked those lots, but have not proceeded farther than that.
Right, and it's a worthy thing to do, and that's why we earmarked them, but we didn't have any data on what, how and when,
So,
and
um,
like we need, so I think we need to have that discussion. And you can come back with some options for us to, how you would like to see it, or we can get Dan to help restrict, some of this so that, we can make it, an affordable house.
Sure. Yeah, and again, so long as with rural development, they would just require any deed restrictions to be vacated if they have to foreclose on the homeowner.
Sure.
So I mean, essentially, it would help if you have some language for me that, it sounds like what we're talking about is we want something that's owner occupied.
Right.
So,
And it's required to be owner occupied while the applicant actually owns it. They wouldn't be allowed to rent it out already as through the terms of rural
But
development.
you said they didn't have to live here.
They don't have to live here to qualify for an application. So,
So then they're gonna be moving into it
and
for sure then. But
Yes.
clarify that, we can have that
Yes.
discussion, and we
Yes.
need to restrict.
yes, so if they qualify for the program and, you know, we submit everything to rural development, they approve it. They would be moving into the home. But again, to your point, there's nothing.
How
in
long
place-
are they gonna stay?
That's where I was getting. To your point, there's nothing that would prevent them from selling it 6, 7 months later.
Yeah. right. Okay. So
so
let's just move.
yes, would we like to, I guess we don't really need to reaffirm anything
that's,
for him
that's
for the
still
grant process.
the board has not changed that designation or that earmarking,
Okay,
so there's no need for a vote.
And we could
Yeah.
do that if we don't get the right answer.
Sure.
but I would like to bring this forward, at another time when Lucas can be here for that discussion, so that they have a little more reassurance on that. And,
Okay, good.
okay. So if do you want a copy of these last year minutes to include?
I got a copy yesterday. I can
Okay.
get them.
And we're willing to put it on the agenda when you're ready and Dan's seen it and we can get
So,
something we think might work.
Absolutely.
you can,
Have
you
Kevin
can
put
get
it back.
with me, are you gonna be in Salida
I will.
next week? I believe I will be there as well, so we can visit and try to get something set up again on that, if that works for you, sir.
You know, may have to find a different time, but we can definitely get together.
Okay, yeah. You're a short hop, skip and a jump for me, so
Yeah.
I can set up another time. All right. So, we will table this to a future meeting. I guess is the right terminology.
We'll just put it back on when they're ready.
Okay. Next item would be the consideration of a shared vehicle for the assessors and planning and zoning offices. Again, this would have been one that would have been good to have Lucas here on,
Yeah, he was the one that put that.
because he's the one that put this one on.
You probably already done that.
Let's take a short recess. I will try to reach out to him.
He was really seriously gonna try to zoom in.
He was. I'd like to try to reach out to him. Let's take a short recess. I will try to reach out to him. Because I would hate to make this decision without him in attendance. Is in recess at 9:35. Okay, the time is now 9:40 a.m. and I will reconvene this Board of Commissioner meeting. While recessed, I did reach Commissioner Epp. And he is wanting us to go ahead and move forward on this vehicle for the assessor and planning and zoning, and he gave me his thoughts on that and what he was wanting to present to us, so. We have done some searching and probably something similar to a Toyota 4Runner, possibly the off-road version, which gives you a little more height and clearance on that. If we approve this, he's looking at taking that out of capital improvement. And then the one Liberty that is one of them that is in question, to go ahead and see if we couldn't find the parts to get it back and running for a vehicle for the pool. But to move forward, he wanted to move forward with this and not to exceed $50,000. I'll open that up. Do you have any comments, sir?
No, let's hear the plan
Okay.
between the two.
And JD's not here, but Dorothy is here. Basically, I think Lucas had put this together. I don't think you guys were included in what he was looking at. So what the plan is to go ahead and move forward for a shared vehicle between planning and zoning and the assessor's office. And it would be, most probably a Toyota 4Runner, as I stated, and not to exceed $50,000.
They've already found one.
We do not have one specific vehicle, but in looking, you can look and price ranges are running in the $40-some thousand. And so this today would be, this is not for a specific one that's already on the hook, but to move forward to get that vehicle for those two departments.
Okay, and he checked with Jen that capital improvement fund is, I know it's okay. What I
Yeah,
understand.
and that is where he's planning on pulling that, and he's, as you know, been intimately involved with the finances as of late,
Yeah,
so
I thought.
he knows that there is money there available for this.
Okay.
And there is one, I think the assessors is the one down there at Road Bridge now that's not operational. And when they take out, still they don't shut it off, because if they shut it off, then the chances are it's not gonna start again.
And he's proposed to go ahead and fix that.
Try to get one of them fixed back up to go ahead and put back in.
For others as well.
Yeah, it would be beneficial to have for use, even, extension, they had to borrow different vehicles to take their trip. If we could move forward, trying to get parts for that. But this other would be a much better vehicle for them to take.
Well, I know for a fact that a long bed pickup doesn't hack it. Because there's a lot of places they go that requires the clearance as well as tight turning.
Turning
It's
radiuses.
hard. So I would move, we support that and that we allow that to go forward for not to exceed 50K. And we're gonna look for not a pickup necessarily, but it sounds like it'd be better if it was a passenger vehicle that could carry.
It'd be
4
like a
people.
Toyota 4Runner, I believe is what he's looking at, and they do have an off-road version from the factory, which is lifted a little bit
They
more and
need
give you
it.
more ground
Okay.
clearance,
Yeah, all right.
which would still come in under that 50,000.
And it needs to be that, by the way. For sure.
So,
Okay, so moved.
okay, so I have a motion, I will second that motion. To move forward, to purchase a shared vehicle for planning and zoning and, the assessor's office. money to come out of capital improvement fund, not to exceed $50,000. And I would, as discussion, I would just say that Lucas has been looking at this. If he wanted help, I would be willing to help him look for that, or even to go and help him get one picked up, or however that looks, but, I think he would be
He's got it.
the spearhead on this. So, any other discussion? Public comment? Seeing none and hearing none. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Next item would be the consideration of appointing weed board members. We have a total of 4 names that have been submitted. 3 of which, or 2 of which are previous, I guess 3 of them are previous weed board members. One is Vince Cook, Sharon Berry, and Roger Gregg.
How many do we need?
The current bylaws state 10 members. There is revisions being considered to bring to us that are not in place yet by these board members that have submitted their names. They will work on suggested changes to the bylaws, which would drop that number.
So all these are eligible and can be appointed, is really what I'm asking.
Yes, these are eligible and can be appointed. The part of that conversation is 3 of them sit on the Conservation District Board. The Conservation District is willing to help move this along and to facilitate and try to get this weed board back on its feet, self-supporting. And three of the members of that Conservation District are willing to sit on this board. But it won't be the Conservation District taking over as weed board. I would like to make that clear. But the board itself is willing to facilitate and to help in any way they can. And 3 of their members are willing to sit on the weed board.
What's the term?
That's a 1-year term. Is that
I think that's
correct?
Yeah.
So that would be a 1-year term. And it would be renewable. So at the present time, it'd be like an 8-month term. Because that was
Takes up
renewable at the first of the year again.
Who's the 4th? We didn't name the 4th.
What are all 4? Barry,
There's,
Barnes,
Sharon Berry, there's Greg,
Joe Barnes,
Joe Barnes,
and Vince.
and Vince Cook. We had emails from 3, and Vince sent that I forwarded last
gotcha.
night on a text.
Yeah, I move that we accept the slate of members presented for weed board members.
I would second that. Any further discussion? That gives us a decent start to move forward. I would say at the present time as well, just in consideration of this, or a side note on this, is Road and Bridge is trying to find someone to spray the pit shortly. We will not have our IGA and stuff in place, I believe, with Fremont County to have Brittany do that. So they're searching because they're under a tight timeline to get the pit sprayed.
The guy who used to spray named Cordova, I think was some years ago. He may still be doing it.
I'll get that from you.
Okay.
here in a minute and they've reached out to the one that's out of
And he
Canyon.
has done it for the county at one point.
Okay,
He may be out of business with all that.
so a little bit of a sidebar there, but same vein.
Okay,
So I do have a motion on the floor to approve the 4 names for weed board members. Any public comment? Mr. Gilbert?
You mentioned eligibility for weed board and and that kind of thing. Well, what is that?
There are state requirements for the weed board. I do not have them sitting in front of me. Some of the conditions in their bylaws, the 10-member rule is not, I don't believe through the state, but majority of the members on the board have to be owners of 35 or 40 acres.
it's less than that, because there are members that have, I think that have 40, or maybe it is 35.
So it's 35 or 40 acres. That's a state requirement for a majority of the board members. So if you
Some of them
had,
don't have to have, as long as they own some ground.
if you have 4 members, it'd have to be 3 of the members would have to own that. If you had 5, the same 3 would meet that requirement. The others can have less than.
They have a vested interest in not having Russian thistle in the back.
Okay, but it's not things like a degree in weedology and yada, yada, yada.
No.
It's a degree in shovels and picks and sprays.
Although there is, there are classes and trainings that are available.
So they can
that,
recognize them.
They actually put on like a weed tour and things of that nature, and there are classes available for not only the board members, but for the public themselves to attend.
Okay, so to extend my comment then, what is the actual process to be made part of that slate? Do you have to
Basically, what happens is, we're out of cycle on this, but now come first of the year, it'll be the same process. Is that if you are interested in serving on that board, then you would write a letter, an email, something of that nature. Probably a hard copy would be best. We have that we can print an email, but write that to the board of commissioners, stating your interest in that.
Actually, it's
and
through the
then we-
board first, and they need to.
Yeah,
And they.
if there was a sitting board in place, right now there wasn't.
Right.
But then you would submit that to the weed board itself, and they would forward any recommendations on to us to approve.
Okay, so to my embarrassment, I didn't know any of this stuff, but I have heard that of the process per se. But I have heard that there's been difficulty in getting enough bodies to actually make it function. And it is an interest in the county to ensure that we don't have rampant noxious weeds.
Yeah, and actually, it's only board that state, on the state statutes required.
Required. So I guess my question then is, I suppose it's not possible for me to volunteer to be considered to be on the board in a verbal method and then provide you with a document?
I would say we're still in the formative stages of this, so you wouldn't be out of a timeline if you went ahead and submitted that in writing. I would prefer that we stuck by the routine that
So
set.
email or letter?
Type it up and put it in as an attachment on an email
Okay.
and send it. That way we have it for our records. And, at the present time, I guess that would probably come directly to the commissioners or send it to, BOCC admin.
Yes, they.
And, since we're still trying to get this board put together, you could come directly to us rather than to the weed board first. Anything else? Nothing on mine either. Okay, so I have a motion on the floor to approve or to appoint the four members as stated as weed board members. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Consideration of employee options for payment of insurance premium shortages. Hello, sir.
You would be Bob.
Well, last I checked.
Good morning.
So just as a refresher for those who are listening or new members or whatever.
Speak loudly more.
So this is a refresher made after I started auditing the CTSI bills for medical, dental, vision. It became clear that the premiums that for those benefits went up by 13% last year with the renewal.
Effective 1 January.
Correct. The premium increases, both the employee's portion and the county's portion are withheld from employee paychecks via payroll deduction based on their elections. Well, those increases didn't get put into the payroll system, and so the county was underpaying the invoices. That has since been corrected, working with Jen, so through Jen, had her submit a check for the in the arrears amount, so that's caught up. So now it's a matter of what the board wishes to do as far as trying to get caught up with the employees' portions. And just as a refresher, so when we get the bill, the county turns it around and pays it, including the employees' portion of that. The deductions from the employees' portions come out of their paycheck to the county, and it's basically a reimbursement to the county for that, because that's already been paid.
Get caught up.
Okay, so what I did is I audited all the employees' elections to compare to what the premiums were that they paid compared to what the elections were as to what they should have paid. Okay, brought that to the board. And so the motion before the consideration for you is that at this point, the employees' portion of shortage for January, February, and March is $14,268.12. Okay, so the question then is, how does the county or the board want to go about trying to resolve that issue? There's
Is
the way
there
I
every
see it,
employee that's affected?
more or less to an extent, yes, because the life insurance didn't change. So there are a number of employees who just have life insurance, so they didn't affect them. The rest of the employees have, the large majority of employees have one type of benefit or another, because it affected medical, dental, vision. The amounts vary from a couple, $2-3 to one employee who it affected to the tune of just over $1,000. So the options, to the way I see it, to the board is you can choose to, not require reimbursement from the counties, from the employees, sorry. And I say that because when the premiums come in annually, from CTSI, it's up to the board how you want to handle those. In other words, when we at renewal, like last year, we get a cost for each type of plan. Medical, $1,500 deductible, or $2,000 deductible, or $2,500 deductible health plan, or the vision and dental. So it's the board's decision how you want to go about taking that total for that piece. Do you want to pay it? Some counties pay the whole free, pay all of it. Others will split it between themselves and the employee. And as to how much of that you split is up to you. Currently, it's 1/3 and 2/3. The employee pays 1/3 of that premium for the benefit they selected, and the county pays 2/3. And so
Is that what we've been doing all along, that history?
that's based of, I wasn't here previously, but in sitting down with Vern and going over the records that he had and accessed, that's what we were able to determine. So, to my best of my knowledge, yes,
So this number is calculated on a third.
yes. Of what, so you can certainly choose to not have the employees make up their portion. It's not a problem if you want to do that. The other way to do that is have the employees, I have a breakout per employee based on their own elections. Create a spreadsheet and identify every employee and what is shortage. You can say employee A, I'm trying to stay away from names. I show you were short $204.32. You can ask them either to, would you like, we as the board are requiring you to make up that shortage for January, February, and March. I've created a format of, I can show you. It's basically an acknowledgement that I could send to them that says this is what happened, this is the amount that show that you were underpaid. Giving you the option to either pay that all back at once, because like I said, for some employees, it's not very much. But for others, the majority of the employees will fall in the category of $200 to $400. And that may be certainly a stretch or difficulty for some employees. Without question, some go up as high as 6, 7, 8, and one employee more than that. Or you can, and along with that, say, if you want, we can take that balance and spread it out over each month to the end of the year. And there's a form on that they can say, we want, some of them say, well, I only want to do it over 2 months. Some of them 6 months or whatever. And they put that in, divide it, and they'll give you a monthly amount that would come out of their check to get them caught up. Then once they're caught up, it's done. So there's a waiver on there that says that if they leave, they understand that any unpaid balance would be withheld from their final check, because that's a bill owed to the county essentially. So by signing all of that, they're saying, I authorize Custer County to do a payroll deduction equaling this amount over this many months, and if I leave, pay, and then they sign it. So I send an email out to the employees, making them aware of the situation. We'll be talking about it today. They've had some employees call or come in and have questions, and one employee sat down and talked with this employee, and they were understood, yeah, this understood going forward, that no problem with doing that, that's appropriate. But the other comment was, well, this is a situation that of not my making, which is certainly true. And it would be this employee's preference that the county, does, in their view, the right thing to do and covers that cost for the first 3 months. So I'm passing that on to you as a concern from at least one employee. In other words, this employee had a shortage of $800, as an example. And instead of requiring that employee to pay that back, the employee's request is, since I didn't make that problem, is that the county covers that shortage for all employees for that first 3 months. Now, I would caution that if you want to do something like that, which you certainly can, that it would be an all or nothing, is that you are not, it would be discriminatory to say, I will do it for employees whose balance is from this amount up. Okay, $500 or more, we're gonna do that for those employees. By doing that, you're actually setting yourselves up for a discriminatory action, so I would say, if you're gonna do that, you do it for all employees. Or if you want to allow the employees, tell the employees, we need you to pay it back, then it's for all employees. And then by the method I described to you, there's a way they can either do it once or spread it out as far as possible without by the end of the calendar year.
And that would be per employee decision on that.
Yeah, it would be their decision, the way the form, the notice that I put together gives a brief description, and then I would put into theirs, their notice, the part of the spreadsheet that I created that describes their situation, their benefits and what they paid at the old rate compared to what they should have paid and what the dollar amount for shortage. And then they could make a decision based on what's best for them, given what you're telling them that you're allowing them to do.
So it'd be a sheet similar to what you passed out
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, all I did is took one of the employees on that, pasted it in, I took the employee's name off as an example. And that's what it would look like. Unique to each employee's situation. So the options are.
There's only two options.
Yeah, there's only two options. One is the county, since the bill has already been paid to CTSI, all you're doing is reimbursing yourself, if you will, to the general fund or whatever fund it goes to, that dollar amount. Or keeping it within the budget. Now, in talking with Vernon, when I started working through this, he indicated that in the budget, when he was putting it together, he budgeted for, I think he said 14%. So, and it went up 13%. So in theory, there is 1% of that is still sitting in the budget numbers between, because it went up 13, and if you accounted for 14, then at least 1% of the total that's available there if you wanted to use it.
Say that louder, because I don't think anybody ever did. The bottom line is, when we budgeted 24, Vernon thought it put in the margin of 14% as opposed, and what actually happened, it was a 13%. So there's money there, and we're not taking any, if we decide to go forward with this, we're not taking any money out of something else to do it.
That's my
It's already been
understanding.
budgeted.
From my conversations with Vernon, that is my understanding.
Okay.
The amount total that's from just the employees from all funds for January, February, and March is 14,268 and 12 cents.
I'm glad that we caught it at the time that we did, so thank you very much for that.
Makes it easier now than later.
Yes, it is.
Did we catch it because CTSI was asking why we hadn't paid it? Or
This is, it kind of happened all at once. I was have been going through mandatory reportings that are coming up all city and county governments. And along with that, from past experience, I know that those benefits have to be audited every month in order to, because that rolls into other reportings that have to come out.
Yeah.
And if
And we
you
have to
don't,
settle up if they leave.
right,
It's
and
gotta
so
be current.
though that part triggers other things. And so I began to say, okay, are we in compliance with these other things that roll off of this invoice? And I began to look at it going, this doesn't look right, and this doesn't look right, and this doesn't look right. So I began digging into it, and so I called CTSI and I said, or ask, I see these things in the invoice, how come? And so then we began to have that discussion. And I've also been told by CTSI that worked with Betty, I've worked with before, who made the comment that the last time Custer County balanced the invoice portion that we get was in November of 21. So from November 21 on, that process has not been done. So they are requesting that once we get this settled, that they're wanting to have me go back and balance those invoices as well, which I'm certainly willing and want to do. However, we're past down the road quite a ways, and there are other things of more importance, if you will, on my plate. So I will work on those, but there's some other things that have to come first.
Yeah.
And then I will backtrack with them to get that done.
Yes, it's very understandable that, because there are a lot of people that live paycheck to paycheck. I understand that, and, that part would make me lean towards absorbing that cost. By the same token, it is a cost that was owed. Granted, the employees didn't create the problem, we did by not getting that entered into our system.
So for the employees, if you do ask them to pay back the unpaid, their shortage amount, just to put it in context. So their rates are going to go up based on their elections, right? And then on top of that, the amount that they end up paying back based on their election is going to be added on top of the increase that they're going to pay already. So depending on how much it is, it could, as an example, their rate increase could be $200, just as a number to guess. And then if they take that 200, spread it out, so it could be maybe $300 if it's an additional 100 for the rest of the year, or 50 for the rest of the year, whatever that amount is.
Opinion from you, sir?
Yep, I think it's clear. There's two things that make it clear. One is, this is a result of a hosed up financial system we've had for several years, bad, that we are in the process of fixing. And it's not the employee's fault that happened. Secondly, we all are lucky that we caught this, and we're lucky that we have the budget that is not impacted by paying this for the employees. And so therefore I would move that we absorb that cost and that we pay the $14,268.12. And hope the heck that we, I like what we're doing, we're straightening things up, and we need, this just further shows that we need a finance department director, and when we're working on that, I know that's on your plate too. And we'll be talking about that next couple weeks. Therefore I move we absorb it.
I would second that motion.
It's what we'd have paid anyway.
Discussion on that.
That's my discussion.
Okay, yeah. And I can support that. Again, I wish Lucas was here so that he could put his 2 cents, so to speak, in on that.
I think it's pretty.
Probably a bad term there, but
Well, there's some that could use 2 cents.
I realize that it was not an issue that the employees caused. And in essence, it'd almost be a double hit, because they're gonna have their 13% increase plus the overage. If we didn't go ahead and absorb that, and this would take them to just the 13% increase. So I think I could support this. And again, thank you for catching that when you did, because otherwise it would be a totally different conversation we'd be having right now.
Does that mean you seconded it?
I did this and went to discussion.
Oh, we did.
So.
Okay. We will,
We haven't voted yet.
Hold on.
Any other discussion here at the
We
table?
may both decide not to do it.
yeah,
Any other discussion at the table? Public comment. Nadine,
Which commissioner is in charge of HR? Okay. And Lucas App is in charge of finance. And you had mentioned that this is the fault of the software or,
No,
you know.
didn't say that at all.
Well, anyway, I'm wondering, since, you know, you're blaming it on the county not catching it, but I think it's more like the supervisor, you are the supervisors. And
Well, we are,
so
yeah.
what if part of this check, this balance that was due, what if part of that is actually taken out of your checks? And you would, you know, make a contribution since you were in charge of these departments and it wasn't caught.
my answer to
Considering
that, my answer to that is to address that 14,000, zero. To address the shortage that I have in regards to my own insurance, I take the same hit as everybody else here.
And Nadine, the only commissioner that's left that was there to see it was me. You want me to take the 14,000?
No.
But they weren't here. They weren't part of it that could have caught it. Lucas came on the job after the 1st of January. Kevin was here. I guess you were here for part of it.
Yep.
So that's it. And
And in answer to that too, I'm sorry.
no, I
stepped on it.
just, I still think it definitely is a county problem because and we are the leaders of the county. So therefore we're accepting that fact. Don't want to blame the employees for it. And we have to straighten it up. And we have been straightening it up since August of last year.
And the comments have been made that because we are a managing commissioner to a certain department or a certain person, that we should know each and everything that ever comes across that person's desk and we see everything. We don't. We, when we find something that there's been an error or something, we address that. We depend on our employees and there are issues and we're trying to rectify issues now as well. Does that mean this is never gonna happen again? I'm not gonna tell you that because there's a very good chance that something similar to this could happen again. When there are issues, we will address those issues. But we don't, just because we're a managing commissioner of a department or a person, we don't know each and everything that happens in that office each and every day. It's impossible. That's my comment.
Let me, before you.
Go ahead.
I agree with that, except that I've had experience in the corporate world at higher levels than this by a bunch, and in the military too. You don't know everything, but you do put processes in and you do try to get things, and when you catch them, you fix them. And as soon as we caught it, was my position. We started fixing it. And so that's all we can do. And then if we don't fix it well enough and things keep going south, there's lots of options. In the corporate world, you get fired. In the government world, you get fired too. And so, and we listen to you. You're our bosses. You want to fire us over this, you sure can, and we can go through that. And I'm willing to go that way. But this is where you're paying us to manage it, and we are managing it, as opposed to ignoring it. And we could have done that. We could have gone and, you know, like I said, if this was a clear case, that was a problem. And we have to fix it. It's not the employees' fault. All right, I'm done.
I'm Warren. I'm with Human Services. So I just want to side with you guys eating the cost. I'm not really ashamed to talk about my position on it if I'm allowed to. I'm the employee that has to pay over $1,000. I was not getting my insurance deducted from my paycheck at all. Sorry.
And now they want to take out so much in one, but there's no way she can do it.
Which we're not.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm pregnant, you guys didn't know.
No, I don't know. I'm not gonna ask.
And the county also does not pay for maternity leave. I'm not here to bash you guys on that, but that sucks. And so I have to financially prepare for that time that I have to take off. And so to have to,
Pay that back. She's not gonna be able to do it.
I can't survive. I don't,
And she's not gonna make enough to pay her bills. And so, yeah, and it wasn't, and this, we're not talking 3 months. This went on for a while. So it's a bad situation. And she should not be the one that has to make that up, because it's not her fault they were taking it out.
That's right.
and to advocate for that, it wasn't that I wasn't paying attention to my checks, if that's, anything that gets brought up. My insurance was working, so, if I also had a change in pay at the same time that my insurance started, and so I didn't see it, and I went to the doctor, my insurance paid my bills, it's not, I'm gonna go through my check and make sure that you guys are withholding every dime, it's also, not my job as an employee to ensure that that's happening. So again, I apologize for being emotional, but it was a very scary thing to have a conversation yesterday with Robert that I may have to pay, a lot of money back. And I just, I already have one kiddo. I had to move into a new house, expenses and baby, and they're really expensive, and so I just wanted to show my support with that because I won't be able to make it. If you guys have us pay it back, so.
Thank you. Mr. Gilbert.
Yeah, I agree fully with Mr. Kanda that, it is a, issue. What I, would like to point out, however, is that this apparently was an issue in really the day-to-day function of the finance department. It's an issue that the insurance is gonna go up. They would have seen that. They would have put in place the option period where people could adjust their whatevers, such that the hit wasn't so bad the next year. All of that didn't take place, and I think it didn't take place because of the distractions in the finance department brought on by the citizens of Custer County because they went crazy over the audit. They distracted the finance department, so someone, somewhere, or whatever, a process piece got overlooked when it was supposed to be taken care of. So, as such, the taxpayers of Custer County have an obligation to pay this back. And that is exactly what Mr. Canada said we would do. And I fully support that. And all these types of errors that, this new mother to be out of no fault of her own suffered, you can't punish someone for your mistakes, and I don't mean your mistakes, I mean your mistakes. So I find myself in a very, very precarious position agreeing with Mr. Kent.
Again.
Twice in a month.
Twice in a month.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead,
Jim Shell. Oh, maybe I shouldn't.
take a drink.
Jim Chaplin. As I see it, there's two ways you can make the employees pay it back, which actually is understandable. But you can absorb it, as you're saying, and I like that idea. If I was an employee, I would say, wow, there was a mistake here, they caught it, they're correcting it. And they're showing that they care about me, and it'd make me a much happier employee and much more willing to go above and beyond.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Nothing online. Okay, so I have a motion on the floor to absorb the cost of the insurance premium shortages for the employees in the sum of $14,268.12. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion does carry. Thank you for your work on this, and your continued work on this.
You're welcome.
I guess it made it a little easier. You don't have to come up and do all the itemization, right?
Yes,
The
sir.
employee.
At this point,
But there is one thing, and I know it would have happened. Bob did point out too, that the election period never got notified. People never had a chance to decide to change because of the processes that haven't been in effect. You can see since 21. Give me a good grief.
one of the things.
It's
as I
glad
mentioned,
you're here, Bob. And that's being
mandatory
fixed.
reportings is the county employees, which I think somebody mentioned, they didn't have the option for open enrollment. Which is.
Some of them didn't even know they had
rolled into
the
this.
elections they had, believe it or not.
So, that is in process of. In addition to this, but it has nothing to do with
That's right.
this issue, so
Yeah, there's lots of things we're working that we're finding as we do it. And that's
as I
what
move forward.
you know.
Is there a possibility that that open enrollment could?
I asked,
We can't.
as I
They won't be.
prepared for this and going through this issue, I made the request from CPSI. And
The
said,
neighbor adamant.
this is what I see. I don't have any record of it happening. Given that, would you be willing to allow a one-time off? Period to allow the employees for an open enrollment period? And their answer was no. Two things for that, they have absolute rights to do that. Because under the laws and regulations regarding those. The only time that an employee can make changes to their election is under very specific situations. And other than that, once that open enrollment window closes, changes cannot be made. And the CTSI or the carrier for this had already made their budgets for their having to do everything based on the enrollments of all of their participating county cities and counties. And so they weren't willing to, because it certainly could change dramatically. And they've already budgeted for everything as it is. So their response was no, we won't allow you to do a special one-time open enrollment period. And so that's where we have, and so going forward on the other things, putting in place things, so processes and implications, so even if I'm not here, that doesn't happen again.
I might ask one more question in that regard, and then we'll head on down the list here, but one of those on an individual basis, if they have a life-changing event, is when that's available to
Right.
be done out of cycle. Does that include, say, if your spouse had insurance or
Mhm.
something different and now does not?
There's
Is
the
that one of
qualifying,
those?
yeah, the qualifying event, if you will, is if you have a death or a birth in your family, and you can make elections then. If, your spouse has a coverage change, then that's another qualifying event. Divorce is a qualifying event. Things of that nature are considered qualifying events. So outside of those qualifying events, That's why they put those in place. You know, a major life event like you described is a good example. Of what they're called qualifying events.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, appreciate it. Thank you for coming.
The whole room's been weird. Well, maybe I will. I'm fine.
Okay, consideration of reimbursement to the DA's office for legal expenses.
This is
And this is additional expenses
the extra
than what we had previously, correct, sir?
That's correct. There's been some new expenses that were submitted to the 4 counties in our district. I want to say that about $9,000 in a request was made. Just as some background, the normal procedure, well, some background. Whenever there is an ethical complaint filed against one of the attorneys in the DA's office, state law requires that we pay for the defense of that attorney as long as it doesn't result in any discipline for that attorney. We're not on the hook to pay for the expenses for that attorney if that does result in discipline. And as many of you and many in the public know, our DA's office appears to have quite a few complaints against the attorneys in its office. And you can read into that what you want. And we've had to pay some expenses related to complaints that did not result in discipline. We received a bill for $9,000 and change, I think. When I say we, I mean the 4 counties received a bill for $9,000 and change. Thankfully, the county attorney in Fremont and the county attorney in Chaffee have both kind of taken the lead in reviewing these things so that I don't have to spend a few hours poring over legal bills from other law offices and figuring these things out. And I can just kind of scan what in this case the Fremont County attorney has done and say whether I agree or don't. In any event, that of that 9,000 plus bill, we've kind of jointly determined that 2,106 of that is probably reimbursable to be paid. Normally, what would happen is those attorneys would pay that out of their own pocket and ask the counties to reimburse those attorneys. In this case, those attorneys had the DA's office reimburse it, and so now we have to reimburse the DA's office, and hopefully that won't happen again, because quite frankly, it shouldn't come out of the DA's office budget. It should come out of these attorneys' pockets individually. In any event, our share of the 2,106 is $120.67. And I think that is reimbursed. I think that is a proper reimbursement for the county to make to the DA's office for this particular situation.
Might point out, it's always a formula between the 4 counties
Yes.
based on popularity.
Exactly. So for instance, Fremont County of that 2,106 paid more than half of it because they have more than half of the population in the district. And the other 2 counties, again, for the benefit of the people in the audience, I think, are Park and Custer in addition to Park and Chaffee in addition to Custer. And Custer is by far the smallest of those 4 in terms of the percentages. I will say, I think we're waiting, everybody is waiting for the big shoe to drop, which is none of these expenses have to do with DA Stanley's defense of her issues. That's a fair way to put it. And I think that those are the ones that are that's the request that A is going to be the most expensive and B the most scrutinized by the 4 counties in terms of what is or isn't reimbursable.
How much was that again?
$120.67.
Okay. I move we pony up $120.67 to pay our share.
$120.67.
Cents.
I would second that motion. and discussion on that. I guess I would have. Is this could this possibly be a total bill for these added expenses for these two individuals? On the previous ones, we had some come in and then another batch.
I can't say that for sure. We think it's the end of this for these two, but I can't guarantee that. I mean, I'm not gonna guarantee that.
It is what it is.
It is what, that's.
Yeah.
Exactly.
My point being, it would be nice if it was all in the nice.
It would be, yes.
But, what would be nice and what is two different things. Any further comment here? No. Public comment? That being the case, those in favor of reimbursing the DA's office for legal expenses in the sum of $120.67, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. And per the email on this, is that gonna go through Chafee again? Or go straight to
In
the
this case,
DA's
just go to it just goes to the DA's office.
Okay. Wanted to make sure that we knew how to direct, that.
Yeah, I think if it had come from the individual lawyers, we were trying to funnel it through Chafee, just so that it was all
They were
going.
basically the bookkeepers. right?
Yeah, but since the DA's office submitted this bill directly, we'll just reimburse the DA's office directly.
Okay, good.
Okay. Thank you, sir. We have consideration of waiving the landfill fees for the towns. That would be Silver Cliff and West Cliff for their cleanup day. Do we have a date on that?
Silver Cliff,
24th?
May
May
4th.
May 4th.
Star Wars Day.
Here, let me turn them up.
Yeah.
May 4th.
Star Wars Day.
May the 4th be with you.
May the 4th be with you.
We'll take that one.
Nice thing is, everybody knows what that is, so.
So, annually, both towns have a cleanup day. They coordinate and have it on the same day. And, we have historically waived the landfill fees for that, so that, on that particular day, so that, they don't incur any great expense other than being able to pick up the trash and things of that nature.
So both towns are doing it, and they know, everybody knows where to dump it.
Yes. And I spoke with Mr. Lockhart. He said he does have space. He was gonna try to be here, but he said he didn't know if he'd make it.
I move that we waive the landfill fees for May the 4th.
I would second that motion. He is online though, by the way. So did you want to speak to that at all, Brian?
No, that's fine. Yeah, no, I totally agree.
That is the force.
Slowly back away from the microphone. You made me jump. So,
My bad.
all righty, no problem. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
All right. Any further comment here? Any further public comment? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Any additional items of business?
None from me.
That being the case, public comment. That being the case, I will adjourn this meeting at 10:39 a.m.